Hi everyone, I'm Shauna and welcome to my channel. Today's video is going to be my October no buy update, and I'm gonna do it while I'm getting ready because it's kind of the only time I have right now to film. So it's get ready or don't film this. So this is just gonna be, before I get into the update, what I'm gonna talk about. This is gonna be like my everyday kind of makeup routine, and it's almost exclusively using Project Pan items. So it will be listed in the description box below because I probably won't be talking about what I'm using. My skin has also been really freaking out. It's the worst it's been in a while, and it's like the breakouts just kind of, they haven't stopped. I know I've been really stressed and also eating a lot of Halloween candy. You know, that's not great for my skin, but it is what it is, you know? So this video is coming at you the way it is because I have already had, my previous video was talking about how I'm taking a step back from YouTube. And I said that I would be talking about kind of why a little bit more about that and how it's going to affect my channel, and that kind of update was going to come mostly as my no buy update, because that was kind of like the biggest news for October. And honestly, like not a lot happened in October, which is fabulous. I did buy a coat, and you'll probably see that in a video. It is part of an outerwear video that I'm bringing to the channel. That's more of a question on when. I did place an order in the VIB sale, and my commentary on that is on Instagram. Yeah, it was just like a really average month. Didn't really buy anything. I did buy some bras though. I'm not gonna be featuring them on this channel. I really needed some of those. It was a great buy. Yeah, so there was just really a really kind of small amount of purchases that happened this past month, and not a lot of like personal things to report either. It was a really solid month, and I did have a no buy tracker on Instagram. I'm keeping one again for this month. Wow, my chin is looking unbelievably dry. Anyways, so I feel like a hot mess today. So I initially filmed this video the day that I found out the news. Like, this decision was being made and we're gonna go ahead. And that video was really chaotic, and you could really tell in that video, like, first of all, like the lighting was not very good. I filmed it late at night, not late at night, like 6 o'clock. And like the sunlight was already gone. So there's that. And then I was really processing the information as I was talking about it. And I sounded, I think, a little bit panicked. And I was basically working things out as I was. That video was really stressful, and I feel like it was kind of cathartic for myself to talk through these issues and to figure out how I was feeling about them. But now that time has passed and things have kind of been figured out, I feel a little bit more relaxed, still like incredibly busy and like freaking out internally, but a little bit more relaxed because the things that have needed to fall into place have done so. And I know that if you've been kind of consuming my content, then you'll, I don't know, me talking about comps has just kind of been everywhere, and I've been talking a lot about it. It's just like one of the most significant things to happen in my academic life. It's like one of 3 major events: getting in to your preferred university, getting into a program, knowing you're going to be getting a PhD, then it's comps, and then it's your dissertation and defending it in like that moment when you become a doctor. What are comprehensive exams? Because I feel like that needs a little bit more clarification to yeah, to clarify this whole process, why I'm kind of stressing out about it and what it means. So most social science and humanities-based programs do this comprehensive exams, and they look pretty similar. You have to read a certain number of books, and then you have to do some kind of exam after. That's generally how it's done, and it is, as far as I'm aware, pretty consistent in Canada and the US. But there are variations even between programs, but I do know that that's like fairly standard. So in my field, what you have to do, well, what you're doing is you pick 3 fields. I look really crazy right now. So you have 3 fields. One has to be geographic, and then the other 2 are usually thematic. And your geographic field also usually decides what kind of language you will be required to pass or required to learn if you don't already know it. Usually, but not always. So you also have to do a language exam, which, if you know, heard me talk about things, you know that I have to do a language exam too. So what fields you have are determined by the student. I get to decide which fields are my majors, which fields are my minor fields. It's generally 1 major, 2 minors, but it could be 2 majors and 1 minor. And you can think about these fields like teachables. It's very much the same way because they generally represent like what you would teach if you would become a lecturer or professor. But these are the areas you're declaring as your specialization. These are the things that you're probably going to lean on through your career, what you would write books on, the areas you would focus on. And if you were to be employed, you would be employed in one of those kinds of fields. Like if I'm doing Canadian and gender, I could teach any number of Canadian gender courses, or even like transnational US Canadian courses. I could teach basically any Canadian course. If I'm doing food, I could do a food course. There's lots of options. So my major field is gender and sexuality. And then my minor fields are food and Canadian. And you as a student get to decide which one is major and which one is minor. And fields, at least in Canada, are pretty standard across the board. Like you could do most fields in most places. And when you go into these, like picking your fields, you as a scholar generally know what fields you're going to pick. So the process is your entire second year, it's supposed to be 12 months, you read a specific number of books for each field. So a major field is 100 books and a minor field is 50 books. So for me, a major and 2 minor, that's 200 books. So once you're done reading these books, then you have a meeting with your committee, because each field has one supervisor for it that helps you through the field, that creates the list and creates the written exam and like helps you learn. And your major field has something called a second reader for the exam and for the orals. Hold on, I forgot my brush. My brush is not the brush. Okay, I'm back. Yeah, my skin is looking very dry. So, how these fields are, how they play out, what you read, all of that is determined to some extent by you and the prof. My lists have all been, some of them have just been like, here you go. Other ones have been a collaboration. So my comps, we just call them comps, have been delayed. If all went according to plan, I should have written my exams. There's 1 exam per field. And then after that, you have to pass your written exams to do your oral exam. So if everything went according to plan, I should have done my written exams somewhere at the end of May, beginning of June. even to the end of June would have been kind of considered pretty normal. Seeing as though it's now November, I'm pretty far behind schedule. And delays appeared fairly early on for me because I suffer from migraines, and that actually started in June or July 2019. I've never had migraines before in my life. And they started at that time. And that's actually why I wear glasses. But I wear glasses all the time. They've actually been a really great tool to help me mitigate migraines. So that was delay number one. And I knew from at least December that last December, that I probably wouldn't defend on time. And everybody kind of knew that. With the onset of COVID, there was a new set of challenges. One, as I've talked about on this channel, were some mental health challenges. But at the same time, if you are relying on books as your tool of the trade, to have your library shut down and have no access to it 100% impacts your ability to do your job. So my school library completely shut down for weeks. So I was unable to get any kind of new material unless it was made available online. And not everything was. So we had to reconvene new lists. We had to change things, modify things. That took some time. Like also ensuring that whatever I wanted to read was available online. So that was also a challenge. So now we are in November now. And this all kind of came about because every PhD student at every university, basically everywhere, has to have a yearly mentoring meeting or just a committee meeting to make sure that profs aren't leaving you high and dry, your supervisors aren't leaving you high and dry. They're giving you help if you need it. They're aware of your progress, those kinds of things. So I had my meeting with my supervisors and they were kind of like, listen, I understand that things have kind of happened beyond our control. And they've also just been so supportive throughout this whole thing. They have been aware of some of the mental health concerns and they have been aware of, my medical concerns. And they were basically like, all of them. Whatever you need, however long it takes, it will take. And so at that meeting, which happened about a week ago, they were like, okay, this is just kind of dragging on a little longer than it needs to, and we want you to finish. And they said that because if I'm able to finish this year, like in 2020, that means that my delays will only be for 2 semesters. If it goes into a 3rd semester, there's a good chance I would be out of the funded cohort when I go to defend my dissertation. Delays happen in the writing process and the research process, and I've experienced that. I did my master's by thesis and not by coursework, which is the common way in Canada. And so I did have to write a thesis and I also had to defend it. So I've had that experience, that exact experience of being out of the funded cohort. It was horrible, but they're looking out for me. So they were like, okay, you're basically there. Let's do this thing. So I was panicking last week because, as I told you, a lot of things had to happen to kind of make comps actually happen. One, I had forgotten that we needed a second reader. So we had to find a second reader at the very end of this whole comps process, which, could have been a challenge. Also had to get the department to agree to let me write it when I wanted to write it. And actually, in normal circumstances, you generally can't do comps in December. There's a blackout period, but that has been since lifted for 2020. And I don't know if it will going forward, but that is the plan, or that was how things were set up. And then I also had to get the department to approve my writing comps, which was great. I also had to get everybody, a comps committee is 4 people. I had to get all 4 of them on board to write this exam, administer the exam, and do oral exams in the month of December when everybody has exams. All of these profs have other classes that they're teaching. So they have to agree to take on extra work in the busiest month of the year and before a break. And they had to agree to that and get everybody on board for the dates, because December can just be a really difficult time to maneuver, to get somebody has an exam here, somebody has to have their marks in by this point. It's all been kind of a nightmare. I shouldn't say that. I just mean that December is always such a busy time. And even for people in administration, people who are marking, even me as a TA, you have to get exam marks marked by a certain day. And the pandemic has changed a lot of how things have happened, being able to contact people, etc., etc. December, needless to say, is just a really busy time. I had to get them all to agree. I also had to get an exam, a secondary exam that is related to the PhD process, moved to after comps, which needed a very special approval. And then I had to get somebody to agree to write it and then also agree to administer it in a very specific window. Because my comps, in order to kind of fulfill the guidelines and also make sure I have enough time to do my oral exams that also have to happen by the end of the year, to get it all done by university closure, that has to happen within a certain window. And then I had to schedule my secondary exam on top of that. Additionally, I had been meeting with basically all my supervisors except for one. And I had to get him to agree to help me go through my list, to have your regular meetings, to check in, to make sure you know what you need to know, all that good stuff. And then I had to get him to agree to do that. All of it together was a long shot. To get the university to approve me writing an exam late, to get all these people on board, to get a second reader, to get everybody to agree to write this thing and do the orals at the absolute busiest month of a year felt like a long shot. And when I had that initial video, I was totally panicking about it. And also, I was questioning my own ability. Like, do I have it in me to study for 4 exams at once, to know all the information you need to know? Because I've been learning this stuff since May 2019. Do I have it in me to do it, to learn and do all of this? It's a little bit of a tight window. Do I have the ability to do it? Can I do it? And I really wasn't sure. I was having, I guess, a crisis of confidence, not believing in myself. And I was also unsure if all the things that needed to come together would come together. I was kind of scared, and I also just wasn't believing in myself that I could do it. And as this past week has been, I feel like, a real test of character. Sorry that I'm looking down to do my brows. I'm not ignoring you. It's been a real test of character because I knew that it would be a whole heck of a lot of hard work to get this done, to do all the work I need to do, to review all these books, to make connections, to have all my meetings, because multiple meetings still need to happen. And one of my supervisors, that third field that I hadn't really been meeting with regularly, he scheduled weekly meetings until I have my exams. And that's kind of unheard of. I've never heard of a prof who was just like out of nowhere heading into the busiest time of the year teaching courses who's basically willing to drop what they're doing for you. That was awesome. I actually have my meeting next. It's what I'm getting ready for. And it's the only time of the week really that I'm getting ready anymore. And this past week, as I've kind of had to arrange things, you know, talk to all the different kinds of people I need to, basically beg the department, advocate for myself, and then study on top of that was a real test. Because at any moment, like I haven't submitted my official forms yet, because I still need to make a final decision about whether I'm going to do one exam format or another. And I'll talk about that in a second. Yeah, this past week, I had time to back out. I had time to decide no thanks. And I was really struggling last week with the question of, am I just doubting myself? Or are my doubts valid and real? Am I just having a lack of confidence in myself? Or are my concerns real? And I watched myself this last week advocate for myself over and over again, which is something I'm pretty horrible at. I'm the kind of person who, if you don't email me after I emailed you, I'm not the kind of person who generally follows up because I don't want to ruffle feathers. And I've had people this week kind of push back at some of the things I've said, mostly departmental stuff, but it's all come together. And I've also been working extremely hard this week. I have not worked as hard as I have this week in a really long time. I've always been the kind of person who is like, okay, I need a good night's sleep to be able to do the thing I want to do. I've never been the person who has done all-nighters or really believed in all-nighters. The kind of closest thing that came to that was working on some kind of paper until like 1 or 2 in the morning, maybe midnight, 1 o'clock, going to bed and then waking up at 5 a.m. to do something. I don't remember what it was. That's like the closest I've came to, to doing that all-nighter kind of culture, participating in that, because I need sleep. And I'm still being really careful or considerate with my work. Like I'm now getting up at 7 and my work day's truly not finishing until like 9:30. The other night, I think it was Wednesday night I worked until 11 and I was so exhausted. And then the next day woke up at 6:30 to try and do what I needed to do. But then last night I got a migraine. I've proved to myself that I can do it, that I have it in me, that not knowing this material right now is okay because I'm reviewing it. This is the review process. This is the time to become reacquainted with the material. So I have caught you up for the whole thing. That's where we are now. I was a little bit nervous for my meeting today because I haven't finished all of the material that I need to, but I highly suspect that this supervisor is going to be like, excuse me, Shauna, why didn't you read the remaining 3 materials? I suspect that's not going to be the case. So the last decision I have to make is whether I want to do a take-home style exam or a traditional exam. And the traditional exam is scheduling the exams over 6 days. So it can be over a weekend. And you get, I think it's 3 hours for your major field and 2 hours for your minor field, or 4 hours and 3 hours, something like that. So that's the traditional format where you just write it like a regular exam. They email it to you at 10 o'clock and then you email it back 3 or 4 hours later. The other format, which is the take-home format, is 8 days long and you have to write basically complete essays for all of your fields. And I've been leaning towards the latter because of the migraines. I got one last night because I get migraines because of computer use and phone use. That's what is the biggest trigger, and I have been using it to a whole other level this past week. And if this was an exam time, let's say my exam started yesterday, if I got a migraine, I couldn't write it. But if I did the take-home exam format, I could. Like, I would lose time, but that wouldn't be the end of it. Like, I wouldn't be officially screwed. So that's what I'm leaning towards. You know, we'll have to see. That's the only thing where I need to fill out my official form and make that official distinction. And that's what I think I'm leaning towards. So when thinking back to last month, that was the biggest thing that was happening. I think I had just been leading my life the past, since the pandemic. This is just the way it's gonna be. And I wasn't thinking about, not necessarily being bleak about the pandemic, but I'm talking about my workload in it. I just wasn't thinking about comps. I was just trying to get by. And I wasn't thinking about how many books do I have left? What do I need to finish to write this? And if my supervisors hadn't said something, I don't know that I would have, because I was just kind of moving along and I just wasn't thinking about the future or thinking about, could I write this soon, or working hard to do that. And I was for a while, but I feel like the pandemic really changed things, or at least my perspective. So there's been a lot of freaking out over the last week, and even needing to study for my Italian exam, because it's a lot of work that is coming, and it's exhausting to think about, and it's exhausting to do. And I was worried that this would create a trigger sometime in November or December, because this is going to happen. My written exams are going to take place between November 26th and December 4th, and then the oral exam is going to happen either on December 11th and December 14th. One's a Friday, one's a Monday. And then I have up until the 22nd, I think, to write my Italian exam. So once I've done all that hard work for comps, it's not over yet. I still have to write an Italian exam, and it's looking like I'm gonna have to actually go into campus to write that exam. I'm not excited about it. I'm trying to talk my way out of it, but we'll see. Hold please, eyeliner. If I get it all done, then I'll have an actual break. I'll have no work over the winter holiday into January. So that will be absolutely beautiful. And I will take a break. So that's lovely. But how is that affecting this channel? How is this change affecting this channel? Okay, so my camera died because it overheated. I did finish my makeup. I just put lipstick on and a little spray, and that's it. As I was saying, how this affects my channel is mostly related to posting times, and I said that I would step back. So what actually is being affected is that I will be bringing my project pan update to you. This will be the no-buy update, and then I have a couple other videos on deck. Now, I don't know if I'm going to be doing a December no-buy update. I think I'm just going to bring one at the very end of the year. If I could do more, great, but if not, I'm not planning on doing that update. Also, my mini and sample project pan update, and the next update is just going to come at the end of the year, because if all this goes well, I should be finished all of this school stuff by around December 20th, and then I can work on YouTube for the rest of the year, that remainder part of the year. So those videos are probably not going to happen in the month of December itself, I'm going to do my best to post something, you know, up until the 20th. Maybe have something on deck. I'm not really sure what I'll be able to do. I don't think I'll post anything during the week that I actually write my exams. So there'll probably be nothing then. And I've already kind of said this, but I'm going to do what I can do. And my biggest kind of worry is that this is adding a tremendous amount of stress and anxiety and worry. And I haven't historically done well under pressure. I think what I mean by that is academically, I have performed well, but my mental, like I am the kind of person who gives it everything I got. I study more than I have. Like my standards for myself are way higher than I think that they should be or that they are. I don't know exactly how to explain it. And I push myself really hard. And I've done that consistently time and time again, almost like to the point of torture. That like I work too hard where like I completely kill my mental health. That has been the case time and time and time again through all of undergrad, through applications for master's and PhD, through my only master's exams. I only had 2 in my master's. I haven't written an exam in like 3 years. So I've just kind of in the past really destroyed my mental health trying to do these things. And I don't want to do that, but I've established a really toxic precedent for myself. And I feel like I'm already kind of headed in that direction, like setting up a schedule like that. So, or the schedule that I have established, you know, working from 7 a.m. till 9 p.m. But it also feels like exactly what I have to do. This afternoon, my meetings are generally 2 to 4. I'm going out, like outside, to kind of give myself that breather. It's beautiful weather today. So I'm going to go do that. And tomorrow, my partner and I are going to go on a hike, I think. See each other for a few hours. So it's not as though I'm doing completely nothing. When I was in undergrad, I, like, especially the last 2 years, I completely destroyed myself trying to do exams. And at the very last kind of moment, applying for, like, graduating, applying for master's programs, and getting the grades. At that time, my partner and I had just started going out, and I lived on campus because I was a resident advisor, resident assistant. So I wasn't seeing him all that often, mostly because we couldn't at that point. So I could literally study every single day of the week for 12 hours a day until I got it done. Even though it was like too much, I did it. And that's kind of been my MO for a while. This time around, when I'm doing this set of exams, I can't just like fade into oblivion and just write them. I've talked with my partner on this channel before, who I've said like is actively my partner in life and my support, would absolutely never let me kind of get to that point, even if I tried. Near the end, he will probably just give me some space so I can do what I need to do. But until then, I enjoy spending time with him, let's be clear. But having him in my life is like a good factor at this point. So it's like I'm forced to take time away from this craziness and like be with somebody I enjoy being with somebody like who brings me joy and happiness. I get like happy talking about him. So I think that's a really great factor in this point in time, or in this kind of go around. So I am a bit nervous about like what's going to happen, what I'm going to act like, and am I going to just kind of lose my shit and go spend $1,000 on Aritzia or something. So there is some fear there, but I feel like I've pinpointed my most negative and toxic behavior, and hopefully by understanding it and like knowing that it's there, I can negate it and not make sure that it happens. So that's the update. That is the whole comps thing and how I'm kind of feeling about it. This is, again, like the biggest kind of thing that's happening in my life. It's a major academic milestone and something that is also quite stressful to work towards. And it is actually consuming my life. It's like the major thing in my life right now. So I kind of feel like it's consistently on my mind. And hopefully now that I've figured everything out, all the logistics are covered and I just need to kind of fill in that form. I've also created a schedule for myself to like schedule how I need to study, what I need to do. Hopefully that will create some peace of mind, and it does feel like a load is taken off my shoulders, my chest, to talk about it and be like, here's where I am. Here is what things are like right now. And like talking about some of my worries and concerns. That's kind of how I'm doing. I'm doing mentally better than I was last week, because last week I was just freaking out and panicking. Now it's like I have a plan in place, I'm working hard, and if I recognize a moment I need to step back, like this afternoon, I'm gonna take it. And I'm trying to be a little bit more gentle with myself, because if I do the take-home exams, I have time. I don't need to know everything at the drop of the hat, and that's generally how I've been. So I'm working on it. I'm working on taking a breath. I don't know, man. I might just watch a movie tonight till be like, okay, relax. But at the same time, I kind of feel like I can't afford that. So I need to find a balance. I'm working on finding a balance.